The lock didn't budge. I stood on my own front porch, my daughter on my hip, groceries cutting into my wrist, and the key just kept spinning in the deadbolt like it was broken. Except it wasn't broken. I knew exactly what had happened the second I heard the click, or rather, the absence of one. My sister-in-law had changed the locks. I want you to understand something before I go further. I am not a dramatic person. I don't make scenes. I don't post vague things online. I don't call my mother crying. When something bothers me, I sit with it, I turn it over, I try to find the reasonable explanation first. I have been doing that for 11 months now. 11 months of reasonable explanations. 11 months of telling myself it wasn't as bad as it felt. Standing on that porch in February, my daughter asking Mama, why? In that small, confused voice she uses when the world doesn't make sense to her, I finally ran out of reasonable explanations. My name is Maya. I'm 29 years old. I have a daughter who just turned 2, a husband named Derek who works in logistics, and a house that we bought together 3 years ago in a quiet neighborhood outside of Columbus, Ohio. It's a good house. 3 bedrooms. A decent backyard. A kitchen I spent 6 months making exactly right. I work from home doing freelance graphic design, which means one of those bedrooms is mine, my office, my equipment, my client files, my livelihood. My sister-in-law moved in 8 months ago. Her name is Renee. She's 34, Derek's older sister, and when she called him in June saying her apartment lease had fallen through and she had nowhere to go, Derek said yes before he even got off the phone with her. He didn't ask me. He told me. And because I loved him and because she was family and because I believed it would be temporary 6 weeks, he said, just until she finds something. I said okay. Renee arrived on a Sunday with 14 boxes, a mattress strapped to the roof of her car, and an attitude I couldn't quite name but could absolutely feel. She walked through our house the way someone walks through a place they're already measuring for furniture. She complimented things in that particular way that actually means I would have done this differently. The kitchen was cozy. The backyard was manageable. My office, which she passed in the hallway, she looked at for a long moment and said, "Oh, you use this room? That's my workspace," I said. She said. Just that. The first month was uncomfortable but livable. She kept to her room mostly, came out for meals, was polite enough in that surface way where you can tell the politeness is a performance. Derek was happy. He grew up close with Renee, and having her there seemed to genuinely make him light up in a way I hadn't seen in a while. I told myself that was enough reason to make it work. The second month, things started shifting. Small things at first. She started buying groceries without asking and then referencing her food in a way that made the kitchen feel divided. She rearranged the living room while I was on a client call, said it flowed better now. She gave my daughter a bath one evening without asking, which fine, maybe that sounds minor, but it isn't minor when nobody asked you and the child's mother is 30 feet away. Derek said I was being sensitive. I wrote it off. Third month, she asked to use my office just for a few hours while she had a video interview. I said yes. I went back in 2 hours later, and she was still there, had moved my monitor, and had a candle burning next to my external hard drive. I asked her to wrap up. She said, "I'll just be a few more minutes," in a tone that suggested my own schedule was an inconvenience to her. Derek, when I brought it up that night, said, "She's going through a hard time. Can you just be flexible?" I want to tell you how many times I heard those words over the following months. Can you just be flexible? As if I had not been flexible. As if flexibility was not the entire reason this woman was living in my house. By month 5, she had essentially taken over my office. It started as borrowing it while I was out with my daughter. Then it was just using the printer. Then one day I went into work and there was a second monitor on my desk, hers and her laptop open, and her notebooks spread across the surface like she had always been there. I moved her things to the side. She moved them back. I told Derek. Derek said she was probably just getting comfortable and that I should talk to her directly if it's bothering you. I tried talking to her directly. She looked at me with this very still expression and said, "I wasn't aware there were assigned seats in this house." And then she smiled. Small and controlled, like she had been waiting for me to say something so she could say that back. I walked out of that room and into my bathroom and I stood there for a while looking at nothing. Then I went back out and I finished making dinner because my daughter was hungry. Month 6, 7, 8, I don't want to drag you through all of it because honestly it blurs together into a kind of gray haze that I have trouble distinguishing in sequence now. What I can tell you is the pattern. She kept pushing. I kept absorbing. Derek kept asking me to be flexible. The office became hers in all practical terms. I was working from the kitchen table, my daughter playing at my feet, trying to get client work done while Renee sat in my actual office with the door closed and sometimes locked. Locked. My own office. Locked from the inside with a door handle lock she had bought and installed without asking anyone. Derek said she probably just needed privacy to focus. I said, "Derek, that is my room." He said, "Maya, she's family." As if those two things were not in direct conflict. As if she's family answered anything at all. I need to tell you about the morning everything broke. It was a Tuesday. Derek had left for work at 7. My daughter woke up at 6:30 and I fed her and I was planning to get her settled with her toys so I could get some work in before my 10 o'clock client call. I had a full day, 3 deliverables, 2 check-ins, a new project brief to review. I was running on decent sleep for once and I felt okay. I felt like I could handle things. Renee came out of her room around 8:30. She didn't say good morning. She made her coffee, from her separate shelf and stood at the counter scrolling her phone. My daughter said hi to her with the pure enthusiasm of a 2-year-old who is not yet old enough to read a room. Renee said hey without looking up. I asked if she had any plans that day. Just making conversation. Just trying to gauge whether she'd be in and out, whether the house would be quieter for calls. She said, I was going to work from the office today. I said, calmly, I actually need the office today. I have calls and some design work that really needs the second monitor set up. She looked up from her phone then, and something passed across her face, not anger exactly. More like the look of someone who has been waiting for a fight and is now pleased it has arrived. The office has been my workspace, she said. My setup is in there. Renee, I said, keeping my voice level, that room is my office. I own this house. I have client work today. Derek said I could use it. I stopped. Derek said that? Yes. She went back to her phone. You can use the kitchen table like you have been. I want to be honest with you about how I felt in that moment. I didn't feel angry. I felt something colder and slower than anger. I felt the particular sensation of understanding something you already knew but hadn't let yourself fully know yet. Like turning a corner and finding exactly what you were afraid would be there. I got my daughter bundled up, because it was February and cold, and I told Renee I was taking her to the park. Renee said nothing. I loaded the stroller, I took my phone, I left. I called Derek from the park. He picked up on the second ring, which is how I know he knew something was coming. I said, did you tell Renee she could have the office? A pause that lasted too long. I told her she could use it when you didn't need it. She said you said it was her workspace. That's not exactly what Derek. I was sitting on a bench. My daughter was in the sandbox 10 feet away. The air was 34 degrees and I had not zipped my coat all the way because I had been in a hurry and now I was just sitting there, cold, talking to my husband about why his sister had taken my office. I need you to hear me. She has my monitor. She has a lock on my door. She told me to use the kitchen table. Are you okay with that? She's not doing well, Maya. You know she lost the job last month. I know. I've been watching her sit in my office not doing well for 8 months. You're being, if you say sensitive, Derek, I need you to not finish that sentence. He said something about talking when he got home. I said okay. I took my daughter to the park for an hour, then I stopped at the grocery store because we needed milk and bread and I was not ready to go home yet. My daughter fell asleep in the cart, which was inconvenient but also the most peaceful thing that had happened all morning. I let her sleep. I walked slowly through every aisle. I bought things I didn't need just to stay in the warmth of a public space where nobody wanted anything from me. I got home at 12:15. My key went into the lock. And turned again. And did not catch. I stepped back. Looked at the door. Tried again, slow this time, deliberate. The key went in fine, turned freely, but the bolt didn't move. Not stuck. Not broken. Replaced. Someone had swapped out the deadbolt while I was at the grocery store. I stood there long enough to be sure I wasn't making a mistake, that I hadn't somehow grabbed the wrong key. I hadn't. I had one key to this house and it no longer worked. My daughter was starting to wake up in the stroller. That slow, confused waking of a toddler who is cold and hungry and doesn't understand why she's not inside yet. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, harder. I heard movement inside. Then quiet. Then nothing. I said, loudly enough to be clear, Renee, I know you're in there. Please open the door. More quiet. I knocked a third time and said, I have a 2-year-old out here. It is 34 degrees. Please open this door. Still nothing. And then this is the part that I still think about, that I will probably think about for a long time. I heard music start. From inside. She turned on music. My daughter was looking up at me now, fully awake, cold, starting to fuss. I picked her up out of the stroller, held her against me, and I called Derek. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted, your sister changed the locks and won't let me in. I have Lily with me. Call me now. He didn't call. I stood on that porch for a few minutes, my daughter on my hip, stroller behind me, grocery bag over my wrist, and I thought about what to do. I thought about it very clearly and very calmly, the way you think when you're past the point of being upset and have arrived somewhere quieter and more certain. I called my brother. My brother's name is James. He's 32, 3 years older than me, and he works as a contractor, builds things, fixes things, has a truck, answers the phone. He lives about 20 minutes away, and he had been the person I'd called in a low voice from the bathroom a few times over these 8 months when I needed someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. He always answered. He always said the same thing, Say the word and I'm there. He picked up on the first ring. I told him what was happening. I kept my voice flat and factual. I said, I'm standing on my porch. My key doesn't work. She's inside. He said, I'm on my way. He was there in 18 minutes. Black truck, pulled right up onto the curb, got out without rushing but without wasting any time either. He came and stood next to me and looked at the door and then looked at Lily in my arms. She had one hand gripping my collar and one thumb in her mouth, watching him with the wide serious eyes she gets when she's trying to figure out a situation. He held out his arms to her. She went to him, which she always does, which is one of the reasons I love my brother. He looked at me. You okay? I'm past okay, I said. I'm somewhere on the other side of that. He nodded, like that made complete sense because he's James and it did make complete sense to him. Then he looked at the door and knocked. Not the way I had knocked politely, hopefully. He knocked like someone who builds things and knows how solid they are and is not impressed. Renee, he said. This is Maya's brother. Open the door. 30 seconds of quiet. I'm not leaving, he said. Maya's not leaving. You've got her kid out here. Open the door or I'm calling the police. The music inside stopped. Another 30 seconds. The door opened. Renee stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, looking at my brother with the same controlled expression she'd been deploying for 8 months, the one designed to make you feel unreasonable. It had never worked on me because I had practiced with it. It absolutely did not work on James. She can come in, Renee said, as though she were granting permission. I just needed to. You changed the locks, James said. On a house you don't own. While my sister and her daughter were outside in February, Derek said. Derek doesn't own this house alone. James's voice hadn't changed pitch at all. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't performing. He was just completely unbothered by her composure, which I realized later was the thing she had always counted on, that staying calm and certain would make other people doubt themselves. James had no doubt to work with. He looked at her and said, You're going to want to step aside. She stepped aside. I walked into my own house. I went straight to the kitchen, got Lily a snack, got her settled. My hands were steady. Everything felt very clear. James came in and stood in the kitchen doorway and I could hear him and Renee in the living room, his voice low and even, hers getting louder and then suddenly quieter again, which is what happens when someone tries escalation on a person who won't escalate back. I put Lily in her high chair. Then I went to my office. The door was closed. I opened it. Everything of mine had been pushed to one side or, more accurately, stacked against the wall in a way that said this was cleared out, not organized. Her second monitor was centered on the desk. Her notebooks, her chargers, her coffee cup. A cardigan hanging over my chair. A framed photo of her and some friends sitting on my bookshelf, next to my design textbooks, like it had always been there. I stood in the doorway for a moment. Then I looked at the small corner shelf, just inside the door, where I had installed a nanny cam 8 weeks ago after the lock appeared. It was in a fake succulent planter. Motion activated, 4 months of storage capacity. I had checked it every few days and hadn't seen anything dramatic enough to justify bringing it up until now. I walked over and took the planter off the shelf and held it. Then I went back to the kitchen and sat down next to Lily and waited. Derek got home at 5:40. He came through the door looking the way someone looks when they know they're walking into something they can't manage. Not guilty exactly, not sorry, just braced. He saw James first and that stopped him. What's going on? He said. James was sitting on the couch. He looked at Derek the way you look at someone when you are deciding how honest to be. Then he seemed to decide. Fully. Your sister changed the locks while Maya and Lily were out, he said. Maya stood on her own porch in 34 degrees. Lily was with her. Derek looked at me. I looked back at him. I didn't know she was going to. Did you know she was going to use the extra key to have the locks replaced? James asked. No, He stopped. I gave her my key to hold onto in case. In case of what? I said. It came out quiet. I hadn't planned to say anything yet, but I said that. In case of what? Derek? He didn't answer. I said, She told me you said the office was hers. She told me to use the kitchen table. She has a lock on my office door. She has her belongings in every corner of this house. And today she used your key to change the locks while your daughter was in a stroller outside in February. I paused. What I need to know is, how much of this did you know, and how much of this did you allow? He started talking. I want to be fair to him here. He didn't yell. He didn't deflect to the degree I was expecting. He said he told Renee she could use the office because he thought I wasn't using it much. He said he didn't know about the lock on the door. He said he had no idea she would change the deadbolt. He said things had gotten out of hand and he could see that. Renee was in the hallway. She'd been there since Derek came home, standing just at the edge of the room, listening. She's been difficult, she said, meaning me. I've tried to make this work and she has been difficult from the start. James turned and looked at her in a way that made the room quiet. I said, I have a recording. Everyone looked at me. I said it again, I have a recording of this room for the past 8 weeks. Motion activated. I started it when the lock appeared on my door. I held up the planter. I haven't reviewed all of it yet. But I'm going to. Renee's expression shifted. Just slightly. The controlled look flickered. You recorded me, she said. In my own. Your own what? I said. I was not angry when I said it. That's the thing I want you to know. I was not angry. I was just done with the reasonable explanation phase. Your own what, Renee? This isn't your house. This has never been your house. You have been living here for 8 months because I said yes to that. Because I kept saying yes after I should have stopped. That's on me. But we're done with that part. Derek sat down. He put his face in his hands for a moment. Then he looked up. He said, Renee, I think you need to find somewhere to stay tonight. She stared at him. I'll help you with the moving boxes on Saturday, he said. I'll help you find a place. But you need to go tonight. She said his name. Derek. Just his name, in that particular sibling tone that is a whole argument compressed into a syllable. He looked back at her, and I watched something happen in his face, some resolution forming that I had been waiting a long time to see. He said, You changed the locks on her house. While Lily was outside. He said it slowly. Like he was hearing it for the first time as he said it. Maybe he was. I can't be okay with that. Renee left that night. She called a friend, took 2 bags, said she'd come back for the rest. She didn't say goodbye to me. She said goodbye to Lily, who waved cheerfully, because she is 2 and does not yet know what any of this meant. After she left, James stayed for dinner. Derek made pasta because it was the one thing he knew how to make without consulting anything, and we all sat at the kitchen table, the one I had been working at for months because my office was occupied, and ate. Lily fell asleep in her chair mid-bite, which she does sometimes, just powers down like a device. James left around 8:30. He hugged me at the door for a long time without saying anything, which was exactly right. Derek and I talked until almost midnight. I want to be honest about this part too. It was not a good conversation in the sense of being resolved or clean. It was hard. He cried twice. I didn't cry, which surprised me. I had expected to cry, and instead I was just very, very tired and very clear. I told him that what had happened wasn't only about Renee. That it was about all the times I told him something was wrong and he'd asked me to be flexible. That it was about whose comfort and whose needs had been treated as the priority in this house for 8 months. That I wasn't sure yet what that meant for us, but I needed him to really hear it. He said he heard it. I don't know if that's true yet. I'm trying to find out. When he went to bed, I stayed in the kitchen a while. Then I went to my office with the door standing open, no lock in sight, her things cleared out, just my monitors and my books and my chair where I left it. I sat down. I pulled up the footage from the cam. I'm not going to tell you everything that was on it, but I'll tell you this. There were 3 separate instances of Renee on the phone in my office, talking about getting Maya out of this room for good, and Derek agrees with me. He just won't say it to her face. There was footage of her going through my file cabinet. There was footage of her on a video call telling someone, laughing. She works from the kitchen table now. I didn't even have to ask. I saved all of it. I'm not telling you I have everything figured out. My marriage is in a complicated place and I'm in it honestly, not pretending. The locks have been replaced, a locksmith came Thursday, and this time the only keys are mine and Derek's. The office is mine again. I have a client call tomorrow at 10 and I'm going to take it from my desk. With my monitors, in my chair, in my room. My brother texted me Friday morning. Lily good? You good? I wrote back, she's good. I'm getting there. He sent a thumbs up. Then he sent, you held it together out there, just so you know. I don't know if I held it together. I think what I actually did was get very quiet inside, the way a house gets quiet after something loud passes through it. It doesn't mean nothing happened. It means now you can hear yourself think. I made coffee. I got Lily her breakfast. I went to my office and I opened my laptop. I am still figuring out the rest. If any part of this sounds familiar to you, if you've been in the room where your own voice kept getting softened and your own things kept getting moved and someone kept asking you to just be flexible, I want you to know, the quiet on the other side of it is real. You can get there. Sometimes it takes a locksmith and a brother with a truck. Sometimes it takes running out of reasonable explanations. Either way you get there. If this story stayed with you, hit like, leave a comment. I read every single one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this today, share it. I'll see you in the next one.